then they thrive, they have a wonderful life, they can do whatever they want, they breed and breed and breed, and then at a certain point, when the density of rats reaches a certain point, they turn on each other. It begins with homosexual relationships. For real. After that, they start eating each other's young. Then they start attacking each other. Then they grow so obese that they can't move anymore. And then in the end, as a population, they lose their fertility as a group and they die off again. But not after having gone through a really horrifying phase, what John Calhoun then called the behavioral sink. That everything kind of goes into the sink. And it's interesting that Rat City, this was a project that was done in the 50s and 60s through the 70s with ever more precise ways of manipulating these rats. This model was then translated. Here you have different blood groups, etc. Here you see it going up and down. This model was then very soon taken up by social scientists who said, hey, that's exactly what's going on in high-rise areas. And then also the idea of the behavioral sink is now a cliche in the social sciences. It's used for what happens to certain areas in cities where people live on top of each other and they lose their kind of family ties, they lose their domesticated behavior, and they turn on each other and they lose control of their kids, etc. So, and what I find interesting about this is not so much the question whether it is true or not, but it is the fact that at a certain point, this has a lot to do with, this stands at the beginning of a science of how people behave. And then people are not studied by us scientists, what we should be because we're at a university, as the funny thing is, even if we talk about humans here, we do not study them with the tools of the humanities, which is alpha faculteit, you know, like your history or English literature. No, we study them with the tools of the harder sciences, which means, to my opinion, it dehumanizes people. It dehumanizes people in order to be able to study them as dots or objects or animals or elements or units in a swarm, or predictable physics, things that are subject to the analysis models of the physical the physics or economics. So not as people with their own free will and their own memory and tradition and whatever, no, as dots. So the funny thing is, all these kind of sciences that started out as a critique on treating people like numbers in high-rise areas, in fact, have now managed to create a kind of virtual human beings that behaves like masses. This is, for example, a model used. It's a kind of combination of the Rat City analysis of how people behave once they're in swarms, and the Defensible Space Program, and it's used by the police and town planners to design the city in order. So what happens with a swarm of people once it is being chased by the police? How does it behave? You know, it's like, but it's like a physical science. It's like, how does water behave once you rush it through? You see, all these people have, each of them behaves in its own different way, but not too different. And in this way, cities can be designed in order to make them less dangerous. That's it. Thank you for now.